Have you ever wondered what it would be like if a NASA habitat architect, yes, that's a real job, designed an RV? Well, they actually exist, and today we're talking with their founder, Garrett Finney of Taxa Outdoors. Taxa makes wonderful little trailers, and I think you're going to really love this. This is RV Miles. This winter, LL Bean wants to help you get outfitted for all that's out there with tips and advice for heading outdoors and exploring all the possibilities of the season. Finding time outside can feel tough in winter, but it's just steps away if you turn your backyard into a winter oasis. Add a fire pit to keep you warm, some winter games to keep you active, and some all-weather furniture and outdoor blankets for chilling out comfortably. Just because it's cold out, that doesn't mean you have to be cold. For more fun ideas, easy how-tos, and inspiring stories, visit llbean.com/guide. Welcome to episode number 259 of RV Miles. I'm Jason.
And I'm Abby, and we are two full-time travelers who have been crisscrossing North America on one epic road trip with our three boys since 2016. Here at RV Miles, we talk all things RV and outdoors, from industry news to travel destinations, our national parks, and a whole lot more.
I forgot what you say there.
I wanted to try and put something about NASA in there, and my brain just didn't
work.
I wasn't quick enough this time. I wasn't. It failed.
Well, we hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving. For those who partake, we had a great time on the Vegas Strip.
We did. We had so much food, so much good drinks, so many good times.
Yeah, so we're really excited to kick off the holiday season. As if you're watching, you can see we've decked out the Sabre with a little bit of holiday cheer, and this is our favorite time of the year, to be sure. And we've got a lot planned for the upcoming days, including visiting Disneyland for the very first time.
I cannot wait. We are going during the holiday season. It is going to be decked out. We've never been. We're going with friends. We're going with other friends. There might be some family there. We're taking 4 real vacation days. Just FYI, I'm letting you know,
Sure.
4 real vacation days. And I'm so excited. I'm so excited. We're not taking the RV though. We should say that we're not taking the RV.
Right, we're going to stay in a hotel on site, but we are in the Palm Springs area for the next couple months, and it's just a hop, skip, and a jump over to LA.
And the happiest place on earth.
So we're excited about all that, but today we have, as I said in the opening, Garrett Finney from Taxa on the show, and he's just a really great person. It's really exciting what they have going on over at Taxa, so I'm excited to share that interview with you. But before we get to that, I wanted to talk a little bit about how RVs are inspected by manufacturers once they're built on the line. Because Jayco just put a press release out that they are now inspecting 100% of the RVs that roll off their line. And if that sounds surprising to you, that they haven't been up till now, welcome to the RV industry.
The fact that a press release needed to go out to be like, we plan on checking all our work is quite amazing.
But it is rooted in a bit of reality, in a bit of in some things that were actually beneficial to the RV manufacturers for a long time. Essentially, the RV dealers were the last step in the production line. The RV dealers were the folks that would do what they call the PDI, the pre-delivery inspection. And some less scrupulous RV dealers charge you for that PDI. Camping World. And the challenge has always been for manufacturers is that a lot of the problems don't show up until that RV hits the road. Mm-hmm. And when that RV is delivered to a manufacturer, it has gone through a drive of some length to get there, and often some little problems arise. But RV dealers have been overtaxed in their service bays dramatically in the last few years with the rising number of people buying RVs. And that has become more and more problematic for them to not only get RVs in that, let's say, have been paid a little less attention to, but also now they have more work to do to them and they have more coming in. That's been a big problem. And before the pandemic hit, before this big boom in RV sales happened, there was a bit of a focus beginning to happen among the RV industry on quality. And Jayco was one of them out there. Jayco was building these PDI facilities and was starting to move to having all of their units inspected. Now, I don't want to say that like RV manufacturers aren't inspecting their units at all. Usually what it is they take random ones off the line and they go through them. And they may have individual processes that they do to every single unit, even though they might not go through the entire thing. For instance, it was really cool, I thought, when we went to Sabre and saw when they built our RV, one of the things that they do is they put a fake door on the front of it that's got a giant blower fan attached to it. And they pressurize the RV. And then they go around every seam on the outside with soapy water and look for bubbles to form. And that way they can see where it hasn't been sealed properly. Stuff like that. Some RV manufacturers have rain bays and all sorts of stuff. But the overall PDI wasn't happening until the dealer process. And Jayco began this process only in 2019. And now they have officially gotten to 100%. And I think we're going to see more and more RV manufacturers moving to doing the pre-delivery inspection entirely on their own because the dealers really want it. And that's what's driving it. Some dealers have even been building their own PDI facilities in Indiana, even if they're not located in Indiana, so that the RV could be checked out there before it gets shipped to them.
Right, because a lot of times what happens is when they find something, well, guess what? It has to be fixed. And guess what? The unit is no longer in Indiana. So now it becomes a wait for the part or whatever it is, or the wait to get into the base so that it can actually be done. And I'm curious with Jayco what this is going to do to their delivery time now on the RVs.
Yeah.
So they're going to go through this 100% PDI inspection now. They're going to have to, they can't let those units go if they have an issue. So I wonder, and it makes sense, and it's great that they're doing this, if that is going to make it a little bit harder to get some units on the lot now.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Perhaps, but then when they get to that dealership, then that dealer theoretically doesn't have to do much with it. And that's a great thing.
And that's a great thing. And then that also can mean that the buyer gets to just take their unit.
Yeah.
They don't have to wait now for that thing that was found.
Yeah, there was other stuff that dealers all had to do all the time, like install batteries. And there's less and less of that happening now too, because a lot of RVs are now coming from the manufacturer with a lithium battery on board, because they can do that now that they have these DC refrigerators. And there's just a little bit of streamlining happening, right? They're also trying to improve, which is something that they were trying to do pre-pandemic. Again, had to be put on the back burner. But a lot of manufacturers are trying to improve what they call repair event cycle time, RECT, which basically means once you have a problem, how long it takes for that problem to be fixed. Whether you're under warranty or not, you got to take that to a dealership. That dealer has to diagnose the problem. Then they have to order the parts, and then the parts have to come in and all that sort of stuff. There's a big push in the RV industry to speed that process up. I know like Forest River, which has some 50 brands, they have gone through a process of using the same part numbers company-wide, which was a big process for them to do in order to help with that. A lot of the manufacturers have been building warehouses where they store parts in order to be able to ship them out quicker. And they're pre-authorizing dealers to do certain repairs so that you don't have to wait as long. And a lot of RV manufacturers are now allowing you to use mobile technicians under your warranty. So I think with this normalization that's happening in the RV industry, sales are down dramatically from where they were in this 2021 high. I think we're going to see a return to a focus on, seriously, them competing on quality.
I hope that all of this means that it becomes more RV consumer focused and that the consumer itself, the buyer, gets to receive units that are ready to be used, that they don't have issues with, and that the RV dealerships can then really focus on that RV customer, providing support and service as needed. Because I think in all of this, that is what has always been missing, is putting the RV consumer, the RV buyer first.
And that's got to happen because the buyer is getting way smarter than the RV manufacturers realize, faster than they realize. The internet.
Well, they're all watching your news videos.
Sure, great. But the internet has opened up a whole lot of possibilities for them to learn more about the products that they're buying. And it is moving away from you just show up on the lot and pick one out that looks pretty, even if you're a first-time buyer now. So that's exciting, and I hope there's a lot more move towards that.
Well, hopefully a few more manufacturers will follow suit. We'll see what happens in 2023.
All right, let's take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk with Garrett Finney, who's a manufacturer of a small boutique line of RVs that do a lot of just that. We'll be right back.
Be right back.
Chances are you've seen them on the road. That's because Blue Ox designs and manufactures the best towing products in the industry. Just look around, you'll find them on highways and campgrounds and anywhere you find people traveling in the great outdoors. Award-winning tow bars, base plates, and brakes, a full line of weight distributing hitches, adjustable ball mounts, and a new line of fifth wheel hitches. With Blue Ox, towing doesn't have to be a drag. To learn more about how Blue Ox can make your travel adventures even more stress-free, visit blueox.com.
This episode is supported by ParkWolf, the ultimate app for visiting U.S. national parks. With ParkWolf, you can view upcoming places and amenities as you drive through the park, locate the nearest gas, food, bathrooms, and pullover points. ParkWolf's wildlife maps show you the best times and places to see or avoid wildlife, along with a feed of the latest wildlife sighting photos from the parks. ParkWolf even makes it possible for you to view your live location and direction on official park maps while staying up to date on current NPS alerts and advisories. ParkWolf keeps working even if you lose service. To learn more, download the ParkWolf app for iPhone free from the Apple App Store today.
So I'm sure we're all familiar with the traditional folding camper trailer, the pop-up. I think that was my first camping experience, was in my aunt and uncle's pop-up camping trailer, maybe 35 years ago or so. And that design is still available on the market. It's still the most popular design for pop-up camping trailers, and for a good reason. I think people like these smaller foldable or with compartments that come out type of trailers, because they can be towed by pretty much any vehicle with a little horsepower to it, and they can fit in garages, and they have all the things that you need in a small package. But there's a lot of clunkiness that has gone into RV design over the many years, or not gone into RV design. And there are many reasons behind that. And the folding pop-up camping trailer is still a great product out there. But there's a company out there that set out to do that type of experience a little bit better. The small trailer that you can fit into your garage, that has all the things that you need and that you can tow pretty easily. And it's founded by a NASA engineer, and not just any NASA engineer, one that was responsible for building habitats for astronauts. And his name is Garrett Finney, and he's our guest on the podcast today, and he's the founder of Taxa. Garrett, welcome to the show.
Why, thank you. It's great to be here. I'm going to jump right in and correct something you just said. I am not an engineer.
Sure.
I'm an architect. I'm an architect.
Architect.
And a space architect.
Sure. What a great thing to call yourself. How many people can call themselves a space architect out there?
Very few people. I think maybe less than 10 or less than 20. I make that distinction, one, because literally I'm trained as an architect, and that explains part of what I've created, but also that engineers are fantastic and brilliant and creative and send people to the moon and outer space, but they aren't always thinking of the human first. So human-centered design and how people actually use and play and live inside small spaces, at least in the context we're talking about right now.
You actually call the spaces that you build habitats, which I think is a great distinction as well. So talk to us about what led you to make that move from building spaces for astronauts to building them for Earth dwellers to get out into the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, it's sort of funny. I never know how loud to say this, but I grew up hating RVs and being a snotty backpacker in many ways in the Northeast, and thought they were the big things I was stuck behind on the highway. But then, I moved to Texas to become a space architect, and I started having kids, and I loved camping all my life. And I kind of thought, hey, who's making comfortable camping machines? And in some ways, the answer was no one, really. I would say, by and large, the paradigm of the RV industry has been to make houses on wheels or apartment rooms on wheels, and that's obviously great and exactly what a lot of people need. But there's some set of people that's me, at least in the founding story, that wants adventure equipment you sleep in or a comfortable camping machine. So I came at it with my architect and space station experience, with a slightly different mindset of in a NASA way, performance criteria. But in a funny but straight up true way, it's like me with 2 kids under 5 in a new region of the country where there are tarantulas and scorpions and untold numbers of poisonous snakes that I didn't grow up with. So I wanted a base camp for my own comfort and security. And I owned a 4-cylinder Subaru Outback, and I had to store this thing in my garage. And I kind of assumed that it existed. And over the past 10 years, the growth of overlanding and the types of trailers overlanders want and need has kind of also joined this middle area that's somewhere between tent camping and an RV. And where, in a business plan way, I've created my business. So the founding story was really me being afraid of tarantulas, I think. And then, philosophically, I have a strong feeling that there's a lot of people, again, starting with me, that want to go out and tromp through the woods or the sands and get muddy and dirty. And it's all about, what do you need that keeps you safe and secure, that's small and efficient and does all the things you want. What kind of habitat is that?
So you're not setting out to make a vehicle that has pretty sconces and nice woodwork. You're looking for function.
Yeah, it's like a backpack you sleep in some ways. It's more than that, because the world of, I don't know how slippery a slope it is or not, but there's the full-on house that may or may not be portable, and the tiny home and the larger RV world. And then there's like the small thing. And so that is conceived of as equipment. I often end up saying it's adventure equipment that you sleep in, or it's a straight up adventure vehicle, because the point of people going out on an adventure for the demographic that we're really interested in, is, the thing you're doing, not necessarily where you're sleeping. You want to sleep in a great place. That's not what I'm saying, but it's like, how far down a dirt road can I go? How long can I be off grid?
Yeah.
Can I take my family to Alaska and back? What can I bring with me? Am I a fisherman today, but I'm a father the next day? How does that change how I pack or stow stuff in our habitats?
Yeah, and it can be an expensive proposition to buy a motorhome. I think a lot of people that get into RVing in the first place, their first idea is that they're going to buy a motorhome, whether that's going to be a large 40-foot Class A or a small adventure camper van. And then they start pricing this stuff out and realize, well, they already have a vehicle, or they have a vehicle that they can trade in for something that can tow something. And those things that can be towed are a lot more flexible. And then again, you have the ability to put it in your garage and use your vehicle on a regular day basis as a father, as somebody taking their kids to soccer.
Right. And I think another aspect of that, and the reason that at least at the start of my company, we build trailers at the moment, is that one of the great advantages of the trailer, in addition to what you said in terms of storing by design inside your garage, or at least allow that possibility, is that when you get to a national park, you have a base camp, and you can be whoever you are in our demographic. You can be a parent who forgot to bring diapers and you can rush off with your tow vehicle and get that, or you can be whoever else you are and go out to dinner or go to a different trailhead, but your base camp is set up there. And it always makes me laugh when I follow van life things on Instagram, etc. And like it's beautiful and wonderful and sexy and attractive, and then it's like, oh, but you see very few kids in this scenario, because the motorhome or even the van, you have to break camp if you want to go have go buy beer or diapers or go to a different trailhead. So it's an interesting way that I start slicing up what the definitions of comfortable camping and the advantages and disadvantages of a van versus a trailer. And, they all have their demographics and desires. And I'm sure we'll come out with something motorized in the future. But I started off with this, the idea of like super flexibility and adjustability, and that you don't do the same thing every day.
So you built the first Taxa Cricket back in 2014. So talk to us about what the design process actually was of building your first travel trailer.
You want to hear about the first prototypes that then I constructively broke, or do you want to hear about? So, there's a lot of field engineering that went into our early products. No, I think a number of things. I think designing for people in small spaces, that the choreography of them and how you go in and out the door and what you're carrying with you and how you move in the space and how you put on your clothes or go to sleep, that the smaller the space is, the more critical an inch here or two is. If you're an architect, you're used to thinking of a minimum dimension being 36 inches, and which is the width that a wheelchair needs to go through a doorway. But in a boat or an RV or a habitat, it can be really critical, the difference between 19 inches and 21 inches in terms of banging your hip into something over and over again, or being able to bend over and change a fuse or pick something up off the ground. And that means, which I learned at NASA, that you want to build full scale as soon as possible. And so for me, that means 2x4s and cardboard and sharp knives and screws. And then, forcing your then much smaller company to have meetings inside your mock-up, and putting the coffee machine there and say, oh, this space is much different with 4 people in it than 2 people. And being really cognizant of that. So we build full scale as soon as we can to check out dimensions, and we make big people and small people and kids and senior citizens run in and out of them, and try to sort of forecast or think about every scenario. What's it like in the morning? What's a small space like in the morning and at night and during dinner time, and if it's raining? And how do you design a small space, a piece of equipment that contains people, that accommodates all these things, that the muddy boots and the muddy dog, the changing of a diaper when you're 20 miles down a dirt road. It's fun. And like the NASA impact is really that while our habitats are quite distinctive looking, they're distinctive looking usually for very practical purposes. So we have what appear to be holes all over the inside of our structure, but really they're places you can attach carabiners or bungee nets and start sort of hacking your habitat to suit your lifestyle. So you can put a bungee net right over your kid's bunk and have their teddy bear staring them in the face all night. Or if you don't have kids, you could put your fishing rod strapped to the ceiling, right, where you can reach in the doorway and grab it. Things like that. So it's fun.
I'm sure that the majority of RV owners listening are aware of how uncommon the design process you're describing is, and how so many of the RVs that are designed for us are designed to sell. They're designed to look good on a dealer lot, and I sometimes call them. My background is in the theater industry, and they're built literally like theater sets, in more ways than one, and that often they're meant to just look good for a short amount of time, basically for you to buy them and maybe get past your 1-year warranty. So the idea that you're watching people go in and out of them and use them and making corrections based on the way a person interacts with the space, it is great, and I really wish there was a whole lot more of that in the RV industry. Obviously it costs a little bit more. Obviously your product is a premium product, and it shows. Uh, but I think your way of thinking is going to be more interesting to more people going forward. I think the RV industry doesn't realize how smart we all are now, and how much we have all how much we all researched these things before we buy them now. The depths of information available on the internet about them, and seeing people use them on YouTube videos and all that sort of stuff. I think functionality and longevity are finally gonna have a fighting chance of winning out going forward.
Well, I will of course agree with everything you just said, and that's my bias. I think. Well, one of the things I was shocked about when I first looked at the industry was that it may or may not be a great product, but it seemed to not be designed to recognize that if you're in an RV, whether it's a motorhome or a van or a travel trailer, like most often you're at a campsite that has a very specific site, like your campfire and your picnic table and your friends or spouse or kids have a very specific relationship to one side of your trailer habitat, and that most RVs don't particularly aren't laid out to address that. The big window could be anywhere, as opposed to always looking at where your family is and where you're going to shout at your friends or pass some food out the window or the door. So that was really important to me, and that's the architect in me. And then I agree with I don't know how the business I started. We are so interested in talking to our customer and developing a community, but that's because what we're doing is not generic in any way. People have really specific but also common needs and expectations about use and quality, and I think it's easier for people to know how to use a house on wheels RV. I mean, we can talk about that at great length, and tanks and fuses and stuff like that. But because it looks like something they're familiar with, there's less explanation needed about how to move in and occupy it. Our habitats, they really, they're, to some people, they're strangely bare, or because we've thought about a system of storing stuff, and it's not that you have to hide it. It's that this is the stuff you're using. So whereas an RV might provide a closet, we provide a place to throw your duffel bags. Or whereas and I'm just talking mindset. I'm not like pros and cons. There are different types of people who like houses on wheels and our stuff. But instead of, for instance, a kitchen cabinet with drawers for your silverware, we have a storage tower with plastic crates, because most of our customers, if they can cook outside, they want to take their kitchen outside, or all their pots and pans, or all their spices all at once. And how do we anticipate that and make it easy for them to use their equipment the way they want to. And by they, I mean, again, the 20-year-old, the 70-year-old, the 3-year-old. When is it a treehouse? When is it a relaxing lounge after a long day's hike?
Well, so we live in a 43-foot fifth wheel behind me right now, and we love it. We absolutely love it. It's our home, and when you're that size, maybe it's not as important to think about all of these small pieces that interact, like you said, the choreography of how you use this space, because we have so much room. But there are many limitations to that. We can't take this thing everywhere we want to take it, and that's often a problem. So I would imagine, so that the smaller you get, the more important it is to think very critically about how everything works and functions together. And you all have built several products now that do just that. So why don't you walk us through the lineup of what Taxa offers now?
I can do that. Yeah, and again, to address what you just said, it's, if I was living full time in something, I probably wouldn't be in one of my habitats. But if I want to drive, 3 or 60 miles down a dirt road, I do want to be in one of our habitats, because we're great at being off the grid, and we're small and can handle the windy roads and turning around if a road is washed out and stuff like that. But Taxa has 4 habitats. They range in size. They're all named after insects in an outdoorsy way. So they range in size from a sort of optimized field kitchen with a rooftop tent, plus carrying 4 mountain bikes, called a woolly bear, to a tiger moth, which is kind of our version of a teardrop trailer. So a double bed inside a cabin with an outside kitchen. But the tiger moth, you can throw open 2 walls. So on a rainy day, you're really on a porch, a screened porch, and you can sit comfortably all day. And again, we expect you to have muddy boots and to have some kayaks or some bikes on the roof, that kind of thing. The cricket is the next biggest, and that's where we start providing more systems in terms of hot and cold water and a furnace and an exterior shower and a spot for a porta potty inside. And then the mantis is our largest at 19 feet, where we, originally assumed that was 2 adults and 2 teenage kids. But sometimes 2 adults want that space because they need that. And sometimes, sort of to my surprise, couples with 3 or 4 kids get this, and they put a rooftop tent on the back, and that makes the most excellent treehouse fort for some of their kids. And the whole thing becomes a crazy camping jungle gym living experience habitat, which makes me really happy to see. People climbing on top of this thing and around this thing and inside this thing is really fun. I think that must be how I was as a kid, and probably secretly how I am a bit as an adult, thinking about, how do you play outside, and how do I design equipment that lets families or couples play outside, adventure outside, whatever the word is. And I think that I lean on the word equipment a lot recently, and adventure, because, people who buy our habitats are going somewhere to do something. They want to see an elk in the wild, or they are going fishing, or they're running their kids ragged on a weekend so that everyone stays sane. And that's totally different than the mindset of a fifth wheel owner, which is generally about living full time or going on extended trips. And, I would want more space too. I'm sure I have lots of critical architect design things to say about fifth wheels, but I haven't grown my company that big yet.
Well, I would love to see what a Taxa fifth wheel would look like,
and what insect it's named after. Yeah.
Yes.
A giant insect.
Mothra.
Yeah.
We've been traveling with a family for several months now, and we're going to be with them for several more. They are full timers as we are, and they started off full time in a mantis. uh, by accident. They bought a Mantis for camping and sort of did some extended travels and loved it. And they've got it's a couple with two daughters. Um, and they were pretty successful in being able to accomplish that. And they've now gone to something a little bit bigger. They're in a 30-foot trailer,
Mhm.
but they really have us thinking about going smaller again, even as people that are traveling in something big. I don't know that we could go into something as small as a Mantis, but I've got three boys that are one's my size, and my middle child is about to be a teenager. So I think though that there are so many benefits to going small. My point was behind that. And after traveling for so long, we've been 6 years on the road, traveling in fairly large RVs. We're excited about the idea of figuring out a way to do something smaller so that we can get out more. The camping industry I think it's a fantastic thing. There are a lot more people camping now than there ever have been before, and it's not going away. The pandemic brought on a lot of it, but I think it had a lot of people investing into it and a lot of people trying it out for the first time. So the campgrounds are fairly busy, and a lot of money is going into campgrounds, but a lot of that money is going into just making them fancier instead of building more campsites. So the
Right.
idea of being able to get out, and we do a bit of that. We do a bit of getting out on boondocking on Bureau of Land Management land and stuff in our fifth wheel. But like you said, being able to go 30 miles down a dirt road is not something that's so feasible for us. So uh, I, I think it's something that more people ought to consider. And to be honest, it is something that we are very seriously considering as a full-time family of five, even. So
Well,
I,
that's cool. I have for my designers and for the company, I have various design principles written down in case I get run over by a bus or something. But one of the main ones is as small as it can be and as big as it needs to be. And then that means, in a general life way, I'm interested in efficiency and not overdoing things. But I think the sort of lean aspect of that is that it opens up, in a literal way for you. If you were to downsize even 10 feet, there are just more roads you could go on, more places you can be. And then the designer in me points out that, when I say as big as it needs to be, that doesn't always mean like square feet or cubic volume. That means that the window is in the right place and you're getting the right, airflow and right view when you are inside. It doesn't mean, for instance, in a house, that you need a dining room that's separate from your kitchen. It means that you want to be able to hang out and be totally comfortable. But my company and I am interested in the efficient and small end of that, with the windows in the right place and the views of the right thing and the way to let nature in and keep it out if that means it's a driving rainstorm or a mouse. Things like that.
Well, I have been such a fan of Taxa ever since you all launched. It was such a breath of fresh air, and I love every time I see one on the road. And I think if people are out there looking for something small, please check out Taxa. They're a really interesting option. Garrett, thanks so much for joining us. Please tell us where folks can find more information about Taxa.
We would love that. And first, thanks for having me. It's always fun to talk about our take on the market and our take on camping. People should visit us at taxaoutdoors.com for our website. And we have people here, of course, eager to talk to you and explain how we think of comfortable camping and your adventure. And follow us on Instagram, Taxa Outdoors, all the standard places. We would love to talk to you.
On every road trip, there are moments you wish could last forever. Your kids running into the ocean for the first time, that perfect campsite with views that amaze and surprise with every sunrise and sunset. Moments you spent time planning and you wish would never end. But like all good adventures, they do. But you know what doesn't have to end? your Road Pass Pro membership you use to plan that memory-making vacation. Grab your Road Pass Pro membership today and lock in the $49.99 price for life. This is the last price lock Road Pass will ever feature, so get it now before it's gone. Road Pass Pro has some of our favorite trip planning sites like Campendium and Road Trippers and the Togo RV app. Now, normally I tell you to use RV Miles 10X to get $10 off, but starting November 23rd, 2022, you can use code RV Miles 25X, that's all one word, to get $25 off. That's 50% off the current $49.99 price. The folks at Road Pass have extended this offer exclusively to our RV Miles community, and it ends on December 8th, 2022. Save $25 now through December 8th with code RV Miles 25X and lock in that price for life. That's RV Miles 25X to get $25 off your Road Pass Pro membership. Welcome back to the show, and a very, very big thanks to Garrett Finney for giving some time to the RV Miles podcast and sitting down with Jason. I absolutely love those little boutique Taxas. They are adorable.
How cool is it that a NASA astronaut habitat architect is out there building RVs?
I just want to be in the room when they came up with that name, like that job position. And they're like, we have to call it this. That is so cool. So, all right, our thanks again to Garrett. And it is now time to check the level of our tanks. Jason, what is in your black tank this week?
Be careful who you rent your RV to. If you are somebody who plans to rent your RV out, a lot of people are doing it. A lot of people are making a lot of money off of doing it. But I highly, highly recommend you use somebody like Outdoorsy or RV Share, where there is some level of built-in insurance and background checks and that sort of stuff that really helps make the process go smoother. There's a story out of Canada where a couple rented their RV out to somebody called the QAnon Queen of Canada.
Stop it.
And they didn't realize it until she showed up with her bus that had her picture blazoned on the side of it. And apparently what she's been doing is traveling around Canada since January in an RV caravan. Mm-hmm. And this RV was rented and became part of the caravan. And what ended up happening to this couple is they didn't know really much about this person, but they started following her online after she rented the RV and figured out some of the stuff that was going on. And eventually, the payments stopped coming in. They were renting it for months and months, right? So they weren't able to get in contact with them or anything. And all of a sudden, they get a text message that says their RV has been dropped off at a gas station that was like 120, I guess, kilometers away from their home, and that they should go pick it up there. They thankfully had a spare key because they didn't know that they had taped a spare key, the keys they had underneath it, and the RV was totally trashed out. They left all the food in it, and it was a mess. And they had busted up the suspension. It was leaning to one side. So if you're going to rent your RV out, please be careful about how you go about the process. These folks used Facebook Marketplace. I highly suggest you use something else. Outdoorsy's great. They allow you to see reviews of people. They allow you, pick them and, vet them a little bit. And the insurance is built in, and they are quick at covering any issues. So I think that's the way to go.
So much to unpack there. All right, what is in your fresh tank?
All right, my fresh tank is, we're spending Christmas away from family for the first time in many years, which is it's sad, but it's also nice to be in warm weather, although it hasn't been that warm where we are right now. But we don't have any of our Christmas stuff with us. Mm-hmm. We have been keeping that in our storage unit. So we have been able to sort of do a more natural Christmas, and we have decorated with real greenery, and the kids are working with Abby to make like handmade ornaments and things, and I think that is a lot of fun. Abby dried out a whole bunch of orange slices and just going to do more of that sort of stuff, and I think that that's a really cool way to do an RV Christmas, because it's, you know, it's all disposable at the end. It's all compostable, recyclable, all that sort of stuff. We even have a real tree. It's very little, but we have a real tree.
It's little. It's our Charlie Brown tree. We call it Chuck, actually. We named it as soon as we found it. It was wonderful. I couldn't agree with you more. When I realized that we weren't going to have all of our decorations that, you know, we've had for years and even for generations, I did not want to go out and buy all new stuff. I felt like that was really wasteful. And of course, I didn't want to be carrying it around with us or just donating it. And so I thought that, you know, it would just be really nice if we put our own sort of stamp on decorating our home. And this is something when we lived in Chicago that I used to do a lot with the boys when they were little as well. Like, I know you can't see it here on the video or in the audio version, but one of our windows, we've cut out paper snowflakes and we've decorated that way. And, you know, like you said, I've dried out some fruit and we're going to make popcorn and cranberry garland and just things that, you know, we can do together that really help make this feel festive and like home, because this really is, in our kids' entire lives, only the second time they haven't been with their grandparents for Christmas. And actually, it's the first time Henry's ever not been with family for Christmas. So we really want to make sure that we take the time to appreciate that we can do this and all the wonderful things that we are getting to do. We will get to see family, like my
just
brother.
Family.
Different family. I have my brother in LA, and we're going to get to spend Christmas with them, which we have actually never been able to do. So that's really special. Our family friends, like, we're all going to be together. It'll be really, really lovely. So,
yay. What's in your black tank this week?
So my black tank, I've talked about this before, but last night was particularly miserable.
It's the worst it's ever been.
It is probably, well, I would say that Henry's Lake was the worst it's ever been outside when we were in Yellowstone back in Labor Day of 2020. That's because those wind gusts, we're about to talk about the wind. That's because that windstorm that came through, I think, was hitting us at about 70 miles an hour. We've been dry camping at a BLM campground, the Red Rock Canyon campground. And last night, starting about, I would say really around 10 o'clock, bedtime, of course, a windstorm came in. And it lasted until 4. And we hit wind gusts of about 55 miles an hour coming down out of the mountains down into the canyon here. And it was pretty beepity beep beep, awful.
I think part of it too is it wasn't as bad in this RV as it was when we were in Henry's Lake. We were in the Pioneer, and I think that one got shook a little bit more than this one, but we still shook a lot. And I was up most of the night. I know you were. Pales in comparison to the many, many tent campers who are in this campground and had to experience that. I'm sure it was really rough for them.
RV camping is, we're the minority actually here at this campground. There are a ton of tent campers. And I know that last night, unfortunately, there were a couple of them that their tents were just falling apart. I mean, when I say like a windstorm, it wasn't just, an occasional wind gust coming in. It was just non-stop for 6 hours. And it would vary in its degree of strength, but it was never, I mean, I think, the lowest it was like 28 miles an hour. And then it was, gusting all the way up to 55. And it was just, I think too, for us, it was just hitting us not quite broadside, but just on the driver's side enough that it wasn't going up and over us. And I think if it had been coming face on, we would have been fine. But it was just hitting us at enough of an angle that we were just rocked, and it was so loud. I mean, that was the thing too. And that can be really overwhelming, that just constant nonstop, just
it was
at you.
Starting at like 2 a.m, it would begin to like die down and it would stop. and I would start to fall asleep thinking it was over, and then it would come back
Yeah.
stronger than it ever was, right?
And I, we go to bed at night. We don't keep the inverter on just to conserve our battery power. And so here at this campground, there is no service unless we have Starlink. And so amazingly, last night, I was able to pull up just 1 bar of LTE, and I got my AirPods on, and I put, noise canceling on, which actually really did drown out the sound. It did not stop the movement of the RV, but it did get rid of the sound. And Netflix just graciously worked, and I put on like Sugar Rush or something, Christmas edition, and I just let that play. I just kind of slept through and came in and out, but I just let that be the sound I was hearing because I just couldn't. And we had kids kind of coming in and out too, because it was very loud, like up in the loft as well. I mean, it was a long night, and we are very, very tired. But again, we're safe and all of our stuff is safe. And it does look like everyone else in the campground stayed safe. But if we're exhausted, I can only imagine how the tent campers and those teeny tiny little RVs, and actually those tiny RVs, I was concerned.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them down there were getting hit last night broadside. And I was very concerned that they would not stay upright.
All right. What's in your fresh tank?
So my fresh tank is a movie I want to recommend. Jack and I went to see it over the holiday weekend. It's the second edition of the Knives Out series by Rian Johnson. And if you're not familiar with this movie, this is the first one was Knives Out. It has Daniel Craig in it, Jamie Lee Curtis, Don Johnson. And it's just this really kind of quirky murder mystery where Daniel Craig plays this very Southern detective. Jack loves this film. He loves Rian Johnson as a director. And so he was really, really psyched for the second one to come out. It's called Knives Out, Glass Onion. So we went, and I was looking forward to it. I really enjoyed the first one. I did not expect to like a sequel more than I liked the first. And I friggin' loved this movie. It is so funny and quirky and smart and unexpected, and the cast is fantastic. Leslie Odom Jr. is in it, love him. Edward Norton, Kate Hudson. It's a fantastic cast. And so if you want to go and just have a good time at the theater and just kind of be immersed in just absolute, I don't want to give anything away. Just go see it. If you're looking to go to the theater, go see it. It's a great movie. I recommend it.
I think you can also get it streaming already as well.
Can you?
Yeah.
I'm not sure, because I thought right now it was, maybe you can. I think you should go see it in the theater. If you have the opportunity, go see it in the theater.
We also went to see Wakanda Forever the other night.
We did.
In the theaters, and that's one you definitely want to see in the theaters.
Yeah, you got to go to the theater to see that.
Also a blast and really pretty moving.
I couldn't fresh tank it though.
No?
I couldn't. I really enjoyed it, but I couldn't fresh tank it for what I feel like it just was drawing too many. I don't want to give anything away.
Yeah, okay.
But it was drawing too many similarities to something else that's coming out soon.
Okay.
I don't know. But it's a good movie. I mean, we love Marvel, and it's really moving and really powerful. But when you see it, you will understand what I'm talking about. And it's just kind of unfortunate, I think, in some respects, that it gets overshadowed by that, because
I think it's just a timing thing.
I mean, someone was like, we got to get this one out before, and I mean, I'm not thrilled for this other one that's coming out. So like, whatever, but
All
there
right.
you go.
There you go. That's it for this week's
So
episode
vague.
of the RV Miles podcast.
Yes, it is. And hey, just a reminder, if you're doing your holiday shopping over on Amazon, please consider taking RV Miles with you. You just start at amazon.com/shop/RV Miles, and anything you purchase over there, Amazon will give us a kickback. It costs absolutely nothing to you, but it does help support RV Miles, and we appreciate it. If you are enjoying this podcast, please consider going over to Apple Podcasts and leaving a 5-star review. It is truly helping put RV Miles in front of a whole new generation of listeners. And if you are watching this on YouTube, please don't forget to click that like button and do consider sharing it with your friends and family across social media. All right, that is it. Thank you so much for watching. Stay warm, stay healthy, and keep logging those RV miles.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.